Okay. Just another reason why choosing your installer and designer, specifically your designer for your heat pump system or any low temperature heating system, is of utmost importance, and also which manufacturer they are using for your heat pump. Now, when choosing the correct size heat pump, it's very important that you and your designer understand the difference between nominal outputs and peak outputs. Valent are pretty big offender in this case, and I'll show you what I mean. So when you get the publicly available technical specifications for a Valent heat pump, in this case, I'm going to use the 7 kilowatt unit. They will put in there what's called the nominal outputs. This is the output that the heat pump itself has been tested to and verified by a third party, the European testing standards. And that is the reason they use Air 2, uh, Air 7, standardized temperatures of air temperatures and water flow temperatures, because that's what they're tested to. So nominal outputs include the defrost cycle. And defrosts in the UK tend to be more frequent at 2 degrees outside than they do at minus temperatures because of the humidity. So you're going to get more frequent defrosts at 2 degrees than you are at -7. So your 2-degree output is very important. And the nominal outputs are terrible. They're very, very low because the heat pump has to shut down heating to the house whilst it's performing that defrost. Now you'll see here that we have a nominal output of 3.1 for a 7 kilowatt unit. And it's named 7 kilowatt because that's what it can do for its peak output. And the peak outputs can only be maintained for a very short period of time. That period of time is again reduced at 2 degrees outside. The problem comes when, as an installer, you are trying to find what the output of a heat pump is at a design flow temperature, which is dictated often by something called a reference room in the house. And that is the room that dictates your flow temperature. So it's not always a nice, easy 35-degree flow water temperature. It could be 37, 43, some other random temperature. So we are told, contact the manufacturers. The manufacturers, i.e. Valent, in this case, will send us this, an installer guide. The 7 kilowatt unit, 35-degree flow, 2 degrees outside. They are saying it puts out 10 kilowatts of heat. And it does. It is the absolute maximum that unit can output. It is not what it can maintain on a cold winter's day. And as we saw last winter, multiple Valent installations where the heat loss of the house has been borderline near its peak output, houses failing to get to their 21 degrees inside target temperature, purely because they've been sized off of this installer peak output chart. This is a very, very dangerous game to play, and against MCS regulations. After much back and forth, I finally got MCS to agree that designing to peak outputs is not the way to go. So to give you an example, let's use another manufacturer who uses more accurate data and less peak data. We have an 18 kilowatt unit here, it's listed as. It's got an air -7, and it's saying basically 16 kilowatts output, 15.9 kilowatts, which is great. Your designer might look at that and go, oh, we've got a 16 kilowatt house, and we have -2 degrees C design temperature outside and a target temperature inside of 21 degrees. That means you have a 23-degree temperature rise to overcome. So 16,000 watts divided by 23 equals, we need 696 watts per degree temperature rise. So when it's -2 outside, we know we need 16,000 watts, but when it's 2 degrees outside, and we still have our target temperature of 21 indoors, we have a difference of 19 degrees to overcome. So we need 19 times 696 watts, 13,224 watts, or 13.2 kilowatts rounded down. So now we need to find a heat pump that can output 13.2 kilowatts at 2 degrees outside. So we go to the 2-degree chart and we see that nominal output at 2 degrees is only 9 kilowatts. This is where choosing your heat pump and your designer and installer that knows the difference between calculated heat losses and the reality of a heat loss and how accurate it is. You have to take into account something called internal gain. Now, internal gain is not accounted for with the very basic heat loss standards MCS require us to design to. So I have seen SAP reports where internal gain is calculated, and internal gain is things like solar gain through windows, heat emitted from humans, refrigerators, ovens, all appliances, and generally there's a fair amount of wattage generated by those things, and I've seen it up to 2 kilowatts predicted. So whilst the calculation says we need exactly 13.2 kilowatts, in reality, it's going to be less than that. How much less is down to engineering judgment and the site survey and talking to the homeowner. So in this case, it's likely 9 kilowatts at 2 degrees outside. It's plenty to heat your house to your 21 degrees. If, however, you were doing it off of a valence sheet, and let's say your designer has used this 10 kilowatt peak output at 2 degrees outside. Let's say we designed, in this case, to -3. Let's bring this back. So let's say we have a 10 kilowatt house at -3, 21-degree target temperature indoors. That gives us a difference of 24 degrees to overcome. So 10,000 watts divided by 24 equals 417 watts rounded per degree. So when it's 2 degrees outside, 21 degrees indoor target temperature gives us a difference 19 degrees to overcome. 19 times 417, we need 7,923 watts. 7 at 2 degrees outside. 7.9 kilowatts, 2 degrees outside. Now, this peak output chart will tell you this heat pump is plenty big enough and will handle it. Reality is the actual heat output at 2 degrees outside is only 3.1 kilowatts rated, including defrosts. So if your installer has chosen a valence 7 kilowatt heat pump for your 10 kilowatt house or 9 kilowatt house or 8 kilowatt house, it's very likely you are going to suffer a house that doesn't reach internal target temperatures when it's 2 degrees outside, because defrost cycles are not included in that Valent chart. So, just highlighting again the importance of choosing your designer wisely, your installer wisely, and even more so, the manufacturer which they are suggesting to have installed into your property. Ask them whether the heat pump has been chosen for peak outputs or nominal outputs. If they say peak outputs, walk away. If they say nominal outputs, then that's a good sign they have done some research. I hope this helps. Thank you.